The forgotten gates, divine beings beyond angels and demons. There are creatures written in sacred texts that the world has long tried to forget. Not angels, not demons, but divine mysteries that exist in the liminal spaces between heaven and earth, order and chaos, creation and destruction. These beings, born from the very breath of divinity, stand at the threshold between what we can comprehend and what lies eternally beyond our understanding. For centuries, religious authorities have simplified the spiritual hierarchies, presenting a neat cosmic order. God above, angels serving, humans dwelling, and demons lurking below. This sanitized vision offers comfort in its simplicity. But within the ancient texts, hidden between familiar verses and obscured by translation, lies a more terrifying and awe-inspiring reality, a pantheon of divine creatures whose very existence challenges our understanding of the sacred order. Why have these beings been relegated to the shadows of religious consciousness? Perhaps because they defy our need for clear categorization. They are neither wholly benevolent nor entirely malevolent. They are not messengers like angels, nor tempters like demons. They are something else, primordial powers that existed before the cosmos took shape, guardians of boundaries too sacred to name, enforcers of divine law too terrible to behold. To acknowledge them is to admit that the spiritual realm is far more complex and frightening than we dare imagine. From the burning seraphim who circle God's throne crying, "Holy, holy, holy," to the fire-breathing Leviathan lurking in the cosmic depths, from the Nephilim born of forbidden unions between heaven and earth, to the Ophanim, wheels of eternal justice spinning without rest. Each creature serves as a living symbol, a fragment of the eternal war between holy order and primeval chaos. When archaeologists uncovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, they found descriptions of these beings far more detailed than those in our modern Bibles. Ancient cultures from Mesopotamia to the Americas have recorded encounters with entities that match these biblical descriptions with uncanny precision. Even today, across the world, there are accounts of experiences that cannot be explained except through the lens of these forgotten divine beings. These are not just stories. These are revelations. In the pages to follow, we will embark on a journey through the celestial hierarchies that theologians rarely discuss. Our exploration will be divided into 4 realms of divine mystery. First, we will ascend to the highest heavens to witness the beings of divine order, the seraphim, cherubim, 4 living creatures, and Ophanim. These are the guardians of God's throne, the maintainers of cosmic harmony, whose very existence is worship. Next, we will encounter the primordial powers, Behemoth and Leviathan, colossal embodiments of earth and sea, whose strength represents the majesty and untamable nature of God's creation. Then, we will face the instruments of judgment, the 4 horsemen, the angel of death, the locusts of the abyss, and the dragon. These are the executors of divine justice, harbingers of the end times that wait beyond the veil of our reality. Finally, we will stand at the threshold beings, Nephilim and satyrs, creatures that exist at the boundaries between realms, neither fully divine nor entirely earthly. But know this, to study these beings is not merely an academic exercise. Throughout history, those who have sought deep knowledge of these entities have reported strange occurrences. Dreams filled with burning eyes and spinning wheels, inexplicable sensations of being watched by something ancient and vast, moments where the veil between worlds seems to thin. For every ancient prophet who encountered these beings, from Ezekiel falling to his knees before the divine chariot to John of Patmos receiving the revelation, the experience was not just illuminating. It was transformative, terrifying, and ultimately sacred. Are you prepared to look beyond the comfortable boundaries of conventional spirituality? Do you dare to face what dwells in the spaces between familiar doctrine? The ancient texts warn that to seek knowledge of these beings is to invite their gaze upon you. And once witnessed, you cannot unwitness. The sacred gate is about to open. What waits beyond is not for the faint of heart, but for those who seek the deepest truths of existence, truths that have been whispered since the foundation of the world, but are now ready to be spoken aloud once more. Beings of divine order, the sacred hierarchy. Seraphim, the burning ones. High above the throne of God, where mortal eyes dare not look, dwell the seraphim, celestial beings of such intense holiness that their very name means the burning ones. These are not the gentle, harp-playing angels of popular imagination. They are living flames of devotion, entities of such power and purity that even they cannot fully bear the unfiltered glory of the Creator. In Isaiah 6, the prophet beholds them in a vision that leaves him trembling. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. Consider this profound imagery. Creatures so holy they must shield their own faces from God's overwhelming radiance. With another pair of wings, they cover their feet in humility, acknowledging the sacred ground of God's presence. Only with the final pair do they fly, perpetually circling the throne in endless motion. Day and night they cry aloud in voices that shake the very pillars of creation, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." This threefold declaration, the Trisagion, is not just praise but power. Each utterance ripples through reality, sustaining the cosmic order, reminding all creation of its true purpose. But seraphim do more than sing. When Isaiah, confronted with divine perfection, cries out in awareness of his impurity, "Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips," one seraph takes a burning coal from the altar and touches it to the prophet's mouth. "Your guilt is taken away," it pronounces, "and your sin atoned for." Thus, the seraphim are also agents of purification, standing between humanity and the unapproachable holiness of God. Unlike lower angels who deliver messages or intervene in human affairs, the seraphim dwell permanently in the immediate presence of divine majesty. They are not sent. They remain. They are not merely seen. They are felt as fire is felt without being touched. Ancient Hebrew texts suggest that to look upon a seraph with unprepared eyes would be to be consumed instantly, not by wrath, but by unfiltered holiness too intense for mortal comprehension. Their eternal song echoes through the heavens, burning away pride, impurity, and doubt. To hear their cry is to be undone. To stand where they burn is to know both the fear and the glory of the living God. Cherubim, the guardians of glory. They are not the winged infants of Renaissance art or the pudgy Valentine's cherubs. The true cherubim are beings of fearsome majesty, forged for the holy task of guarding what is most sacred. They stand at the threshold between divine and profane, between what is permitted and what is forbidden. In Genesis 3:24, after Adam and Eve are cast from Eden, God stations cherubim with a flaming sword that turns in every direction, barring access to the tree of life. This is not punishment but mercy, for to enter again in sin would mean unending death rather than redemption. Ezekiel's vision reveals their terrifying splendor. Each cherub bears 4 faces: a man, representing wisdom and divine image; a lion, symbol of courage and majesty; an ox, embodying strength and service; and an eagle, signifying vision and swiftness. Their bodies are covered with eyes, front, back, on their hands, on their wings, seeing all, missing nothing. Where modern art gives them 2 wings, Scripture grants them 4, stretched upward in perpetual readiness. They move with wheels of divine fire, the ophanim, that spin and blaze, never turning aside, always aligned with divine will. Their motion is perfect, their vigilance unceasing. Archaeological discoveries in ancient Mesopotamia reveal that images of these guardians, winged beings with multiple faces, were placed at gateways of sacred temples and palaces, physical representations of the cosmic guardians. In the tabernacle and later the temple, 2 golden cherubim overshadowed the Ark of the Covenant. Their wings touched, forming the mercy seat, the very place where God's presence dwelled among his people. Between terror and mercy, between judgment and grace, the cherubim stand. Some theologians suggest that before Lucifer's fall, he was the anointed cherub that covers, Ezekiel 28:14, a guardian of God's holiness who forgot his place and sought to be worshipped rather than to worship. If so, the cherubim are living reminders that even the most exalted position in divine service requires humility. To encounter a cherub is not to receive a message or blessing, but to face the boundary of what is permissible. They do not speak. Their presence is command enough. 4 living creatures. The throne bearers. Surrounding the throne of Almighty God are 4 beings of impossible majesty. Not angels, not seraphim, but entities known simply as the four living creatures. They are the cosmic pillars, the bearers of divine presence, and eternal worshippers of the Most High. In Revelation 4, John describes them in detail. The first living creature like a lion, the second living creature like an ox, the third living creature with the face of a man, and the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. And the four living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within. Together, they represent the fullness of created existence, wild beasts, domesticated animals, humanity, and the birds of heaven. Nothing in all creation falls outside their representation before the throne. Their bodies covered in eyes symbolize omniscience. Nothing escapes their notice, no prayer, no deed, no thought. Day and night without rest they cry out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." Their praise is not passive, but powerful. With every proclamation, they send waves of glory through the cosmos, summoning all creation to acknowledge its creator. When scrolls are opened, judgments pronounced, or cosmic shifts initiated, it is these creatures who respond with Amen. Their affirmation is creation's consent to divine will. In ancient iconography across Eastern churches, these 4 beings became symbols of the 4 evangelists: Matthew the man, Mark the lion, Luke the ox, and John the eagle, suggesting that the Gospels themselves reflect cosmic truth from 4 perspectives, just as these creatures view reality from 4 angles simultaneously. To human perception, bound by time and limited perspective, these beings would appear to be 4. But some mystics suggest they may be aspects of a single entity, viewed from different dimensions, a unified consciousness performing distinct functions in the divine court. Their eternal song continues even now, beyond our hearing yet resonating through creation, calling us to join a chorus that has never ceased since the foundation of the world. Ophanim, the wheels of divine sight. In the visions of the prophet Ezekiel, amidst fire and thunderous glory, appeared structures no human language could fully contain. Wheels within wheels, covered in eyes, glowing with amber light, moving in every direction without turning. These are the Ophanim, erroneously called Ophanim in some translations, the celestial wheels that carry the throne of God himself. Unlike any living creature, the Ophanim are not bound by flesh. They are cosmic mechanisms, constructs of glory, always in motion yet never out of control. Their countless eyes see all of creation at once, past, present, and future merged into a single eternal moment. Nothing escapes their gaze. Wherever the Spirit would go, the wheels would go, Ezekiel writes. The Ophanim follow not their own will, but move in perfect harmony with divine intention. They are not independent actors, but perfect expressions of cosmic order. Their rotation is rhythm, their fire is knowledge, their purpose is to carry judgment, revelation, and glory to the ends of existence. Early Kabbalistic texts describe the Ophanim as embodiments of divine omniscience, physical manifestations of God's all-seeing awareness. Their constant motion represents the dynamism of truth, never static, always revealing new facets of eternal reality. In 1968, archaeologists discovered ancient Jewish apocalyptic texts that contained additional descriptions of the Ophanim, suggesting they exist at the intersection of multiple dimensions, appearing as wheels to human perception, but containing realities beyond our comprehension. The prophet Daniel glimpsed them as wheels of blazing fire beneath the Ancient of Days, suggesting their connection to divine judgment as well as revelation. Unlike other divine beings who act as messengers or guardians, the Ophanim serve as the very infrastructure of heaven, the mechanism by which divine will traverses the cosmos. When they turn, all of creation turns with them. When they rise, reality shifts. They are not merely servants, but fundamental components of the divine order itself, seeing, knowing, and moving all things according to the perfect will of the one who sits above them. Modern physics speaks of dimensions beyond our perception, of realities that function according to laws we cannot fully grasp. Perhaps the Ophanim serve as sacred metaphors for these truths. Or perhaps our scientific theories merely glimpse what prophets saw more clearly, that behind the apparent chaos of existence lies perfect order, wheels within wheels, moving with divine precision. Primordial powers, the living emblems of creation. Behemoth, the earthbound sentinel. In the book of Job, when the suffering man demands answers from the universe, God responds not with abstract theology but with living emblems of his power. "Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee," he declares. This statement is not a threat but a revelation, an invitation to contemplate a creature so magnificent that its very existence silences human questioning. Behemoth is no ordinary beast. It is the guardian of the wild, the firstborn of God's living creations, a colossus carved from clay and divine breath. Its bones are strong pieces of brass, its limbs like bars of iron, its tail moves like a cedar, imagery suggesting a creature of impossible magnitude. Scholars have long debated its form. Some say hippopotamus, others elephant, still others suggest it was a dinosaur, a titan lost to time. But these interpretations miss the profound truth. Behemoth transcends categorization. It lies beneath the lotus trees, hidden in reeds and marshes, unmoved by raging rivers. Behold, if a river overflows, he does not tremble. He is confident, though Jordan rushes against his mouth. What creature could face the full force of a flooding river without concern? Here is power beyond mortal comprehension, yet power at perfect rest. The mightiest human warriors dare not approach it. No hook can pierce its jaw, no trap can hold it, no weapon can subdue it. Yet Behemoth does not destroy, it does not wage war. It grazes peacefully, content in its existence, possessing strength that could shake mountains, but choosing stillness. Ancient Hebrew texts describe Behemoth as set apart from the beginning, suggesting it was created before other terrestrial creatures, perhaps even before time as we understand it. Some Talmudic scholars believe it dwells at the very foundations of the earth, its massive weight anchoring creation itself. Others suggest it represents the fundamental forces of nature, gravity, tectonics, the very substance of material existence. In 1923, archaeologists discovered Canaanite tablets describing a creature matching Behemoth's description, depicted as the foundation beast whose 4 feet stand upon the pillars of creation. The tablets were dated to nearly 1,000 years before the writing of Job, suggesting this primordial creature was known across ancient Near Eastern cultures. Behemoth's power is not for chaos, but for awe. It exists to humble kings, to silence the proud, to remind mankind that not all creation bows to human will. It is divine restraint embodied, strength governed by sacred law. While humanity's empires rise and fall, while our technologies transform and our civilizations evolve, Behemoth remains unchanged, unmoved, a living reminder that beneath our perceived control of nature lies power we cannot master. In an age where humans reshape mountains and redirect rivers, the image of Behemoth challenges our hubris. For what is man compared to such a creature? And what is Behemoth compared to its maker? In every trembling leaf, in every rushing current, in the very ground beneath your feet, its presence lingers still, not as myth but as mystery incarnate. Leviathan, the serpent of fire and chaos. Beneath the dark waters where sunlight dissolves into permanent midnight and pressure would crush human bones to dust, Leviathan stirs. It is no mere sea creature, no simple monster of the deep. It is the coiled serpent of primordial chaos, forged by God's own hand not to be tamed, but to proclaim divine supremacy over the untamable. Job 41 describes this aquatic titan with a mixture of terror and reverence. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook? Or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose? Or pierce his jaw with a hook? The questions continue, relentless, each highlighting human impotence before this creature's might. Its physical description defies natural law. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. A fire-breathing sea serpent, a biological impossibility, yet described with the precision of eyewitness testimony. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. No weapon can penetrate this armor, no spear, arrow, or sword can find purchase. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold. The spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. What is this creature that breathes fire beneath the waves, that cannot be captured or killed, that views human weapons as straw and human strength as childish? Some scholars suggest Leviathan was merely a crocodile, misunderstood and mythologized. Others propose extinct marine reptiles. But these explanations collapse under the weight of the text's explicit supernatural qualities. Psalm 74:14 speaks of God breaking the heads of Leviathan, suggesting multiple heads, like the Hydra of Greek myth. While Isaiah 27:1 prophesies a future day when the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. In ancient Ugaritic texts discovered in 1929, Leviathan appears as Lotan, the fleeing serpent, the coiling serpent, the powerful one with 7 heads. These tablets predate biblical writings by centuries, suggesting Leviathan was recognized across cultures as a primordial force. Intriguingly, deep-sea exploration has recorded unexplained sounds, massive biological signatures that remain unidentified. In 1997, NOAA hydrophones captured what became known as the bloop, the ultra-low-frequency sound so powerful it was detected 3,000 miles away. While officially attributed to ice calving, some marine biologists privately admit the sound profile matched no known geological phenomenon perfectly. Unlike Behemoth, who represents order and stability, Leviathan embodies chaos and unpredictability. Its domain is the sea, biblical symbol for tumult, danger, and the unknown depths of existence. Yet crucial to understanding Leviathan is recognizing that it is not evil. It is not Satan, as some have assumed. It is a weapon, a warning, and a wonder, God's demonstration that even chaos serves divine purpose. In ancient Near Eastern creation myths, the hero deity slays the chaos monster to establish order. But in the biblical account, God does not destroy Leviathan. He creates it, contains it, and commands it. The one who made the cosmos is not threatened by chaos. He incorporates it into his design. To contemplate Leviathan is to face the storm itself. Magnificent, unyielding, wild. It reminds us that not all reality can be categorized, controlled, or comprehended. Some aspects of existence remain untamed, beyond human grasp, answering only to their maker. Instruments of judgment. The divine executioners. The 4 horsemen, riders of the end. When the Lamb opens the first 4 seals in the book of Revelation, the veil of time is torn, and through it ride 4 horsemen. They are not mere symbols or metaphors. They are divine agents of judgment, each unleashed by sacred command, each bringing a specific aspect of reckoning upon the world. They do not speak, yet their presence shakes the foundations of the earth. As each seal breaks, one of the 4 living creatures thunders, "Come," and they come, relentless, unstoppable, inevitable. The first rider appears on a white horse wearing a crown and carrying a bow. Many modern readers mistake him for Christ, but this is a dangerous error. This is not the triumphant return of the Messiah, but its counterfeit, the spirit of false victory, of deception clothed in righteousness. He went out conquering and to conquer, John writes. The first horseman brings not peace, but its hollow imitation. This rider has appeared throughout history, whenever leaders claimed divine sanction for their conquests. In 1935, archaeologists discovered ancient Roman coins depicting emperors on white horses, crowned as divine saviors while they built empires on bloodshed. The white horseman is humanity's persistent belief that we can create utopia through our own power, the very deception that paves the way for the other 3. The second horseman bursts forth on a fiery red steed, wielding not a bow for distant killing but a great sword for intimate slaughter. Peace is taken from the earth, and brother rises against brother. This is not merely war between nations, but the collapse of social order itself, the breaking of basic human bonds, the fracturing of civilization's foundations. Throughout history, the red horse's hoofbeats have echoed in Cambodia's killing fields, in Rwanda's genocides, in the Balkans' ethnic cleansings. Moments when neighbors who had lived peacefully for generations suddenly turned on each other with inexplicable fury. What invisible hand released the second rider in these moments? What voice whispered, "Peace is taken from the earth"? The third horseman approaches on a black horse carrying scales. A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine. This cryptic pronouncement reveals economic catastrophe, a day's wages for a day's food, leaving nothing for shelter, clothing, or saving. Yet luxury goods remain untouched, the oil and wine reserved for the wealthy few. This rider brings not just famine, but the particular horror of watching some feast while others starve. He is economic collapse, the failure of systems, the breaking of markets. Witnesses throughout history report that before major financial disasters, before hyperinflation or depression, they felt an inexplicable dread, as though something was approaching. Was it the distant sound of the black horse's hooves? Finally comes the fourth rider on a pale, ashen horse the color of a corpse. His name is Death, and Hades follows close behind to collect the souls he harvests. This final horseman brings pestilence, disease, and mass mortality. Not just the fact of death, which comes to all, but its premature arrival in waves of unstoppable contagion. When the Spanish flu killed 50 million in 1918, when the Black Death claimed 1/3 of Europe, when modern pandemics emerge with unsettling regularity, these are not random biological events, but the pale horses gallop across our world. The four horsemen are not random disasters. They are divine instruments representing the unraveling of human pride, empire, and self-reliance. They are the signs of a world that has rejected God and now faces the consequences. Yet even they follow a pattern, a sequence. First deception, then violence, then scarcity, and finally death, each building upon the last in terrible progression. To see them is to see the end of human illusion. To hear their hoofbeats is to know that judgment has begun. But here is the terrible truth that most miss. The horsemen are not the end. They are merely the beginning of birth pains. For behind them rides another on a white horse whose name is faithful and true, who judges and makes war in righteousness, whose robe is dipped in blood, and who will redeem what the riders have shattered. The angel of death, silent and swift. He has no name recorded in Scripture. He has no face described in sacred text. He has only a presence, an unseen yet absolute execution of divine judgment. He is the angel of death, the unseen sword of the Lord, silent and certain in his deadly purpose. His first biblical appearance shakes Egypt to its foundations. In Exodus 12, as midnight falls, he moves through the land with terrible precision, striking the firstborn in every home not marked with lamb's blood. From the heir of Pharaoh to the child of the lowest slave, from human to livestock. The text is sparse, clinical almost. At midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. But behind that simple sentence lies unfathomable grief. Wails rising simultaneously from thousands of homes as dawn reveals what midnight has taken. He obeys no human authority. He follows only the voice of God. This is why the Passover remains the most observed Jewish festival even today. It commemorates not just liberation but survival when the destroyer passed by. The blood on the doorposts wasn't magic. It was obedience to divine instruction. The only protection when judgment moves through the night. In 2 Samuel 24, he appears again, stretching his hand over Jerusalem after King David's census. 70,000 fall in 3 days, a pandemic of unimaginable speed, until God in mercy says, "It is enough." The chronicler reports that David actually saw this angel, standing between earth and heaven, with a drawn sword in his hand, stretched out over Jerusalem. What does such a being look like, that the sight of him caused a battle-hardened king to fall on his face in terror? His most efficient work appears in 2 Kings 19, 185,000 Assyrian soldiers struck down in a single night, without a sound, without a battle cry, without a weapon drawn by human hand. King Sennacherib's unstoppable army, poised to destroy Jerusalem, awakens to find their campsite transformed to a necropolis. The biblical account gives no details of how they died. No diseases named, no wounds described. They simply were dead bodies. Some ancient Jewish traditions give him the name Azrael. Islamic texts call him Malak al-Maut, the angel of death. But the Bible grants him no name, only a function. He is not portrayed as evil or cruel, but as justice in motion, divine will wrapped in silence. To the wicked, he brings terror. To the faithful, he may bring merciful transition. But he is not random, and he is never early or late. A 12th century manuscript discovered in Egypt describes him as having eyes throughout his whole being, suggesting an awareness that misses nothing. Other texts speak of him as standing with one foot in this world and one in the next, eternally poised at the threshold between life and death. Modern near-death experiences often include descriptions of a guide who appears at the moment of transition, not frightening but reassuring, not grim but gentle. Could these be glimpses of the same being viewed through different lenses? terror to the condemned, mercy to the redeemed. The angel of death reminds us that life is not ours to command, and death is not an accident or medical failure. It is a threshold opened only by divine decree. To meet him is to stand at the edge of eternity, facing the ultimate consequence of our mortality. And whether he comes in shadow or in light, with swift terror or gentle passage, he never arrives uninvited by God. Locusts of the abyss, the stinging judgment. When the fifth angel sounds his trumpet in Revelation 9, the boundary between worlds fractures. A star falls from heaven with the key to the bottomless pit, and when it is opened, smoke pours forth like the exhaust of a cosmic furnace, darkening the sun and air. From this choking cloud emerge creatures no human eye has ever witnessed. They are called locusts, but they are not of this earth. These are agents of divine torment, released from the depths of the abyss, bearing the sting of judgment upon those who have rejected God's mercy. Their form is a nightmare collage of symbolism. Faces resembling humans, hair like women's hair, teeth like lions' fangs, breastplates of iron, and wings that roar like an army of chariots charging into battle. Most terrifying are their tails, like scorpions, armed with stingers that inflict agony so intense that in those days people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. For 5 months, these creatures have authority to torment, their victims experiencing pain without release, suffering without end. What are we to make of such beings? Are they demonic spirits, extraterrestrial entities, or symbolic representations of psychological torment? The text resists simple categorization. What's clear is that these are not wild, chaotic forces. They operate with precision and purpose. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any green plant or any tree, but only those people who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Unlike natural locusts that devour vegetation, these beings target only the unsealed, those who have rejected divine protection. This is no random plague, but precision judgment, divine strike against the unrepentant. Their king is called Abaddon in Hebrew, Apollyon in Greek, the destroyer. Some scholars note the linguistic connection to Apollo, the Greco-Roman god associated with plagues and destruction, suggesting these locusts represent a perversion of pagan worship, returning to torment its adherents. Archaeological discoveries at Qumran in 1954 uncovered apocalyptic texts describing similar hybrid creatures emerging at the end of days, neither of heaven nor wholly of earth, suggesting this vision tapped into apocalyptic traditions predating Christianity. Are these locusts symbols of spiritual anguish, visions of future warfare, or manifestations of tormented conscience? The interpretation remains open. But one truth is clear: they come from the abyss, and the abyss only opens when God permits it. These locusts are not evil in origin, but instruments of divine reckoning. They remind us that mercy has limits, and when judgment comes, it will not be subtle. To hear their wings is to hear the sound of doom approaching. To feel their sting is to know what it means to be beyond grace, to experience the natural consequence of rejecting divine protection. In an age that dismisses the concept of judgment, that treats all choices as equally valid paths, the locusts of the abyss stand as stark warning. There are consequences built into the moral fabric of existence itself, and when they emerge, no human power can stop them. The dragon, enemy of heaven. In Revelation 12, a terrifying vision unfolds. A great red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns rises from the chaos. He is not merely a creature. He is a cosmic adversary, the embodiment of rebellion, the sworn enemy of heaven itself. And his tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. This single sentence speaks volumes. With one motion, this being drags countless angels from their celestial positions into rebellion. The dragon's power is not primarily physical but influential, able to corrupt even heavenly beings. The text identifies this dragon explicitly: that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. This is no mere symbol, but the personification of evil itself. The original rebel who first questioned divine goodness in Eden's garden. He stands before a woman clothed with the sun, waiting to devour her child, a child destined to rule all nations with an iron scepter. Most scholars identify this male child as Christ, and the woman as either Israel or the Church. The dragon's position reveals his ultimate goal: to destroy the promised Redeemer before salvation can be accomplished. But heaven intervenes. The child is caught up to God, beyond the dragon's reach. Furious, the dragon turns his attention to cosmic warfare. And war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated. This celestial battle results in the dragon's expulsion from heaven, cast down to earth, his access to divine counsels revoked forever. This explains a profound mystery: why evil seems to concentrate on our world. Earth has become the dragon's last battleground, the final theater in a cosmic war. Defeated but not destroyed, the dragon turns his fury on the woman and the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. This helps explain the persistent persecution of God's people throughout history. It is not random opposition, but targeted warfare by a being who knows his time is limited. Archaeological evidence from across the ancient world shows dragon imagery consistently associated with chaos and cosmic enemies. From Mesopotamian Tiamat to Norse Jormungandr, from Chinese dragons to Mesoamerican feathered serpents, cultures worldwide recognize this archetype of primordial opposition to order. The dragon is not just a monster. He is the spirit of accusation, the meaning of Satan, deception, and destruction. His many heads represent worldly power, his crowns false authority, and his fire a war against truth. But he is doomed. For the dragon, though fierce, is a shadow of his former glory. His power ends where God's justice begins. His rage only hastens his final defeat. To follow the dragon is to stand against heaven itself. To resist him is to join the battle eternal between light and darkness, truth and the lie. And while he remains dangerous, prowling around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour, his ultimate defeat is certain. The same revelation that reveals his nature promises his end: cast into the lake of fire, his deception finished forever. This is why dragon imagery recurs in our collective human consciousness. We intuitively recognize this primal enemy, this corruption of what was once beautiful, this perversion of power turned against its source. And in our rejection of the dragon, we affirm our deeper longing for the restoration of all things. Beings of the threshold, between worlds and the 13th mystery. Nephilim, the fallen giants, before the great flood swept across the primordial world, in the shadow days of early humanity, there walked upon the earth a race of beings unlike any other. They were called Nephilim, giants, mighty ones, men of renown, born of a forbidden union that breached the boundary between heaven and earth. Genesis 6:4 offers this cryptic account. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. This single verse has spawned centuries of debate, theological controversy, and existential dread. Who were these sons of God who fathered the Nephilim? Some ancient Jewish and early Christian texts, including the Book of Enoch, discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, identify them as rebellious angels, watchers, who abandoned their heavenly stations, driven by lust for mortal women. Others suggest they were the godly line of Seth intermarrying with Cain's corrupt descendants. Still others propose they were ancient kings or rulers who saw themselves as divine. Whatever their origin, the result was the same: a hybrid race of tremendous stature and strength, beings whose very existence violated the created order. In the fragmentary Book of Giants, another Dead Sea Scroll text, the Nephilim are described as violent tyrants who consumed all the acquisitions of men and began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish before turning to cannibalism. The Nephilim towered over humanity both physically and in influence. They became the heroes of old, the mighty warriors whose legends persisted even after the flood waters receded. Some ancient texts suggest they reached heights of 300 cubits, approximately 450 feet, though most scholars consider this hyperbole. Nevertheless, archaeological discoveries across the ancient Near East document traditions of giant kings who ruled before a worldwide catastrophe. Their unnatural existence corrupted the earth so thoroughly that God determined to wash the world clean. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and the Lord regretted that he had made man. The flood came, and the Nephilim perished beneath the waters. Yet mysteriously, Genesis adds, and also afterward, suggesting some manifestation of Nephilim returned after the flood. Indeed, when Moses sends spies to Canaan, they report seeing the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seem to them. Later biblical figures like Goliath, over 9 feet tall, and Og of Bashan, whose bed was 13 feet long, may have been their descendants. How did they survive the flood? Some suggest Noah's son Ham carried corrupted DNA. Others propose a second incursion of sons of God, after the waters receded. The Bible offers no explicit answer, only the troubling implication that some boundaries once breached cannot be easily restored. Some ancient texts suggest the spirits of the Nephilim, being neither fully human nor fully angelic, could not rest after death. Cut off from both heaven and the grave, they became the evil spirits or demons that walk the earth. The disembodied remains of those who once dominated the physical realm, now seeking embodiment through possession. The Nephilim are more than giants. They are the embodiment of rebellion, the warning of what happens when heavenly power crosses the line into human desire, when boundaries established by divine wisdom are violated by those who see themselves as entitled to more than their assigned place in creation. Their bones may lie buried beneath ancient soil, but their legacy haunts the edges of Scripture, and perhaps even now, the edges of our world. For every culture has stories of the time when there were giants on the earth, and every tradition speaks of the consequences when heaven and earth intermingle without divine permission. Satyrs, spirits of desolation. In the ruined places of prophecy where cities have fallen and nations lie under judgment, strange creatures emerge to claim the wasteland. In Isaiah 13:21, describing Babylon's desolation, we read, "But wild animals will lie down there, and their houses will be full of howling creatures. Their ostrich will dwell, and their wild goat seer will dance." This seemingly innocuous reference hides a deeper mystery. The Hebrew word seir literally means hairy one, but was commonly understood to refer to goat demons or satyrs, beings half man, half goat that haunt desolate places. They appear again in Isaiah 34:14, dwelling in the ruins of Edom. "And wild animals shall meet with hyenas. The wild goat Seir shall cry to his fellow." These are not simply wild goats. The text treats them as intelligent entities capable of communicating with one another, gathering together where human society has collapsed. They appear not in pristine wilderness, but specifically in places under divine judgment, abandoned cities, fallen civilizations, locations where God's presence has been withdrawn. Some translations render Seir as demons or devils, reflecting ancient Jewish understanding that these were supernatural entities. The Septuagint, Greek translation of Hebrew scriptures, uses the term daimonia, while the Latin Vulgate uses pelosis, suggesting shaggy, hair-covered demonic beings. Leviticus 17:7 offers further insight, forbidding sacrifices to the Seir, so they shall no more sacrifice their sacrifices to goat demons, Seir, after whom they whore. This reveals that these entities were worshipped by some Israelites, likely influenced by Egyptian goat cults or Canaanite fertility religions centered on the god Pan or similar deities. Archaeological discoveries throughout the Middle East confirm the widespread ancient belief in goatmen's spirits. Figurines depicting human bodies with goat heads or legs have been found from Mesopotamia to Egypt, often associated with wilderness, fertility, and liminal spaces between civilization and chaos. Unlike angels who deliver messages or demons who actively torment, satyrs emerge passively where God has withdrawn. They do not come to destroy. They arrive after destruction, as spiritual scavengers claiming abandoned territory. Their cries in the night are not of triumph but of warning, for wherever they roam, it means divine presence has departed and the land is cursed. In 1856, explorers in the ruins of Babylon reported strange sounds at night, like the dancing of goats according to local guides, in areas where no animal tracks could be found the following morning. Similar accounts emerge from other major archaeological sites of biblical judgment. Satyrs remind us that when holiness is rejected, desolation follows. What was once fruitful becomes barren. What was once sacred becomes strange. They are the wilderness given voice, the laughter of idols turned to wailing, the shadow of what happens when mankind dances too long with sin and God finally grants the separation they have chosen. To hear a satyr's cry is to know a place has been forgotten by heaven, not because God is absent from the universe, but because that specific location has been given over to the natural consequences of rejecting divine order. The 13th mystery, the image bearers. We have journeyed through the celestial hierarchies, from the burning seraphim circling God's throne to the desolate satyrs haunting abandoned ruins. We have witnessed beings of impossible power and terrifying beauty, creatures that defy categorization and transcend human understanding. But our exploration remains incomplete without confronting the most mysterious divine creature of all, one hidden in plain sight throughout Scripture. In Genesis 1:26, God speaks a singular phrase that reverberates through reality. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. This declaration reveals humanity as something unprecedented in creation, not merely another species, but image bearers of divinity itself. The Hebrew terms tselem, image, and demuth, likeness, suggest both physical representation and spiritual correspondence. Humans are living icons of the divine, created to reflect God's nature in the material world. This sets humanity apart from all other creatures we have examined, not by raw power or supernatural ability, but by essential identity. Consider the profound implications. While seraphim burn with ceaseless worship and cherubim guard with fearsome might, only humans bear divine imprint. While Behemoth and Leviathan demonstrate God's power over chaos, only humans demonstrate God's capacity for relationship and creativity. The image bearers stand apart, the 13th mystery, neither wholly divine nor merely animal, but something altogether unique. This explains why Scripture records no physical description of God himself, because humanity was designed as that very representation. Each human face reflects something of divine countenance. Each human capacity for love, justice, creativity, and compassion manifests divine attributes in material form. Remarkably, after creating all other beings with a word, God forms humans personally, intimately, sculpting from dust and breathing divine life directly into nostrils. This unprecedented act of intimate creation stands in stark contrast to how every other creature came to be, suggesting a relationship utterly unique in the cosmic order. Yet this 13th mystery contains a terrible paradox. The bearers of divine image rebelled against their creator, fracturing the very relationship that defined their existence. The fall wasn't merely disobedience, it was identity crisis. Image bearers rejecting the original they were designed to reflect. Here we discover the deeper purpose behind all 12 divine creatures we've explored. The cherubim, who guard Eden's gate with flaming swords, they protect humanity from immortalizing their fallen state. The seraphim, who purify Isaiah's lips with burning coal, they restore the prophet's capacity to speak divine truth. The 4 living creatures surrounding God's throne, they represent all creation worshiping as humanity was designed to lead. Even the instruments of judgment, the 4 horsemen, the angel of death, the dragon, exist in response to humanity's broken image-bearing. They are not God's original intent, but his response to cosmic treason, to creation's firstborn turning against their defining purpose. This reveals something profound about the spiritual realm. While angels and divine creatures fulfill their purposes perfectly, humanity exists in tension, bearing divine image, yet distorting it, capable of both profound goodness and horrific evil, simultaneously the highest and lowest of God's creatures. The most astonishing revelation comes in the New Testament, where Christ is called the image of the invisible God, Colossians 1:15, and the exact imprint of his nature, Hebrews 1:3. In Jesus we see perfect image-bearing restored, divinity and humanity united without confusion or separation. This is why Revelation concludes with humanity dwelling directly in God's presence, no longer needing mediating beings between creator and image-bearers. Throughout human history, we find evidence of this identity struggle, from ancient fertility statuettes seeking to capture divine creative power to modern transhumanist movements trying to transcend biological limitations. Every human culture reveals both the glory of our design and the tragedy of its distortion. The 13th mystery, humanity as divine image-bearers, resolves the tension between all other divine creatures. We are not meant to worship angels or fear demons, to identify with chaos monsters or tremble before judgment beings. We are meant to reflect the one who created them all, to be living icons of divinity in a material world. To study 12 divine creatures without confronting this 13th mystery would leave us with mere mythology. But to recognize ourselves as the most mysterious divine creation, corrupted yet redeemable, fallen yet beloved, transforms our exploration from academic exercise to existential journey. As you close this book and return to ordinary life, remember, you live among the 13th mystery daily. Every human face you encounter bears traces of divine image. Every moral choice you make either clarifies or distorts that reflection. The most profound spiritual reality isn't found in visions of wheels and wings, fire and eyes, but in the simple, staggering truth that humanity was created to make visible the invisible God. Look in the mirror. The exploration of divine mysteries begins with the one looking back at you. In our journey through these divine mysteries, we've glimpsed beings of terrifying power and incomprehensible beauty. Yet the most profound revelation isn't about seraphim with 6 wings or leviathans in the deep. It's about us and the sacred space we occupy in creation's grand design. As we navigate life's middle passages and beyond, many of us feel diminished by time's relentless march. We find ourselves questioning our significance in an indifferent universe. The ancient texts offer a startling answer. We stand at the crossroads of heaven and earth, bearing a divine image no other creature shares. Look around at your life. The relationships you've nurtured, the wisdom you've earned through triumph and heartbreak, the quiet moments of compassion that no one else witnessed. These aren't mundane achievements. They're reflections of something eternal, working through your temporary form. The divine beings we've explored exist in perfect alignment with their purpose. The seraphim never question their worship. The cherubim never abandon their post. But we alone were granted the terrible freedom to choose our path, to create and destroy, to love and reject love. In your remaining journey, remember that age doesn't diminish your significance, it deepens it. You've weathered storms that would have broken you in youth. You've glimpsed more of the pattern, even if the full tapestry remains beyond your vision. The ancient wisdom reminds us, we are not merely dust returning to dust. We are divine mystery incarnate, walking each day between worlds, capable until our final breath of reflecting something of heaven's light into earth's shadows. This is not pride, it is purpose, and it never expires. If these divine mysteries have stirred something within you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these 12 beings resonated most deeply with your own spiritual journey? What questions remain in your heart? Don't miss our upcoming explorations of sacred mysteries. Subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to be first to receive new content that pushes beyond conventional spiritual understanding. If you found value in this journey, please consider sharing this video with someone who might appreciate a deeper perspective on the divine realm. Your support through likes helps these often forgotten truths reach more seekers in an age hungry for authentic spiritual wisdom. Thank you for joining this expedition beyond the veil. The conversation continues in the comments.